I found it.
Ah,
Yeah,
meeting's been recorded.
now we're live. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining this afternoon.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Well, I'd like to start talking about Timescape. The album features both original songs and cover songs. What
Yeah.
balance were you aiming for when choosing the track list?
I just wanted to be entertaining to people, to be honest, and I wanted people to like it. And I've always done set lists and running orders all my life, really, um, since the 70s, certainly. And you've got to think of everything, if you can, sort of uh, the key that the thing is in. Does it sound right when it goes into the song after with a different key? Um, uh, just things like that, silly things like that, but do make a difference. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it, what do you need to put here? A fast one, a slow one, to bring the mood down, to bring it back up again. Um, all that you have to think about, and who's going to sing it. We have in Timeline we have two singers, two main singers. We all sing vocal backing, and we all sing lead vocal at some time or another. With Time Flies on the original side of Timescape, the band, I've never sung lead before in my life. I can sing in tune, but I don't have a voice, is the way I've always put it. But I can sing in tune. So I used to demo all the songs for the other singers to learn it. And they all decided that I should do the Time Flies, the song, um, because it just suited, and it did. And I agreed with them and carried on singing. So I sang that one, and Bun Davis sang the first song on the album. And Bun and James sang Back with a Vengeance together. And Stevie G is our own other vocalist. I wrote the tracks on the original side, and Mike Clark gave me a huge assistance because I can't play a chordal instrument. I found out now I can write melodies and sing them or whistle them or hum them or whatever. But Mike would put it into a keyboard context for me. He was invaluable in helping me to write.
What are your personal highlights on the reimagined versions?
On the what?
On the reimagined versions.
You mean on the second side? What do you mean?
Yeah, on the second side, the cover songs.
What was my what? I'm sorry.
Your personal highlights.
Ah, I see. Yes. Well, it was great to do Blinded by the Light again. We do it live also. And it was great to do Thunderstruck again. We also do that live. And people expect it, the paying customers expect me to do that song. And it's great to do it because the guys play it so well. You can't change the arrangement. That's a classic arrangement. Everybody knows it that way. You cannot change something like that. And it's just a great testament, I think, to the musicians in the band in Timeline, because they can switch from doing Thunderstruck to doing a cover from Asia, for instance, which is free, which is the track that's free, and Uriah Heep, July Morning. Not many people, musicians, would be comfortable changing from one sort of music to another sort of music, always completely different, and be happy doing it too, to do it. Because some go, oh, I'm not playing that. I play heavy stuff. I don't play any ballads or anything like that. But these guys are tremendous musicians, and they can play anything, and they always go down wonderfully well on stage. We always have.
According to Brave Words Records, the album has a progressive orchestral vision. Can you elaborate on this concept?
That sounds very, it's good writing, that actually. Well, even years ago, I wanted to put orchestras with rock music. A long time ago. It sounds like a silly concept, but many people are doing it now. And so when I wrote a line, for instance, a musical line, I would say to Mike, "Oh, that's definitely strings, that line." And James said, "Just keep on soloing over that bit, and we'll bring the strings in quietly around it." So it's to me, it's all music. I like classical music. I like orchestras. I like big bands. I first started listening when I was learning music to big bands, because it was that era where big brass, type bands were around, were very successful, and on the radio. And so to me, that's all part of music. And it's a great shame if we lose that ability to put orchestras of any kind, strings or brass, in with rock music. A lot of people have done it, of course, in the past. Earth, Wind and Fire, and I'm trying to think of the other band. It's gone. Never mind. But many people have done it successfully, and I love it.
Are there any plans to tour in support of Timescape?
Do I plan to tour? Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't stopped touring in 10 years. 2 days ago, we were in Lyon in France, doing a festival. 2 weeks' time, we're in Italy doing a festival. We're in Germany just after that. And we drive everywhere. We don't fly. We drive because we want to use our own equipment. And I want to use my drums, not some rental kit, And anyway, you can't rent 2 kick drums up at shoulder height, which is what I do. So we love working. We know each other very well. We've been together 10, 12 years now. And I knew them before they became my band. And I knew they could handle the change in genres, if you like, because I saw them play in a pub and they were doing Genesis and Kansas and a lot of progressive music. So I knew they were good enough musicians. James, we do lots of guitar solos, and James is an absolutely wonderful guitarist. And James and Mike, the keyboard player, have been working together since they were 11 years old, and they're 35 now. So, they're very tight together, and they're both great musicians.
You started your career playing with Tom Jones. What was it like transitioning from working with Tom to joining Manfred Mann's Earth Band?
It was a big transition, going from Tommy Scott and the Senators, which was what Tom Jones was called before he became Tom Jones back in Wales. So, and we were a rock and roll band. I mean, rock and roll, leather jackets and jeans, and Jerry Lewis and Little Richard. You know, and Tom used to throw a ballad in because he had such a tremendous voice, such a big voice. And the audience loved that, the change between rock and roll and a big ballad. And Tom's probably got the greatest natural voice ever born, because he's never had a lesson. He just sings like he's been singing like that since he was 17. So, you know, and he's now 88 or something like that. And, you know, his voice is still there, although he's not a tenor anymore. He's a baritone.
You joined URIAH HEEP during a transitional phase for the band. John Slama taking over the lead vocals, Lee Carsley quitting, and main songwriter Ken Hensley ultimately leaving the band. Due to the commercial rock sounds of the album, many fans and even guitarist Mick Box believe Conquest is among the group's worst records. What's your opinion on the album?
I think it was really good. Tell Mick he has no taste whatsoever. I like Mick. He's a very nice guy and a very funny guy. Totally appreciate that. It's up to, you know, it's his band. He can think what he likes. You know, I wouldn't go as far as to say about any Earth Band album what was good and what was bad and what was indifferent. You just do your best on any album. It was, I think, what Mick was referring to is that it was a completely different band, and John Sloman was a completely different type of writer and singer. And John and I are still friends. He's Welsh, I'm Welsh. And you know, I think it holds up. I've been asked many times to sign the cover, hundreds of times, and literally hundreds, maybe thousands even. And so people seem to like it. The thing that people come up to me and say, not about URIAH HEEP, but about the Firm, is that with Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers and Tony Franklin, is that this, whichever one, the first or second album, this is my favorite album of all time. That's what a lot of people say to me. And they mean above, like Led Zeppelin, above Bad Company, above all that stuff and any other album they have. And that comes up consistently, that this is my favorite album. And it's always a Firm album, really. And my favorite would be Led Zeppelin, but their favorite is the Firm, you know.
But before joining the Firm, you were part of David Gilmour's backing band on the About Face tour, and even recorded a live album that apparently will never be re-released due to Gilmour's own dislike of About Face album. Can you comment on that period? I mean, what was it like to work with Dave Gilmour?
It was amazing. He's a great guy, tremendous guy. Very generous with his time and with his money. He sold his London house for £2 million and gave it to the homeless, all of it. So, you know, he's a very intelligent guy who really thinks about his music. And I think that's what makes him into such a great guitarist, is that he really, really thinks about the stuff he plays. And, you know, people say to me, oh, Pink Floyd got lucky. I say they didn't get lucky, they got Gilmour. And they wouldn't be anywhere without David Gilmour, actually, in my opinion.
It is said that Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers wanted you so badly that they waited several months for you to be available to join the firm. Is that correct?
Yes, it's true. I told Jimmy that I was going on the road. When he called me, it was the same day. And as David Gilmour called me, same day, an hour and a half apart. And I'd been down the pub to have my lunch and a few pints. And I already said yes to Gilmour and picked up the phone. Hello, it's Jimmy Page here. And I thought it was a friend messing me about. Oh, come on, Fred. I know it's you. And he went, no. It really is Jimmy Page. And me and Paul Rodgers are putting a band together and we'd like you to play drums. And I said, an hour and a half ago, Jim, I committed to a tour with David Gilmour. And, I thought that would be the end of it. You go and get somebody else. So my heart sunk a bit. And then he said, oh, that's okay. We'll wait. And I actually took the phone away from my head and looked at it, just like they do in the movies, It's true, I did. Like, am I hearing this? Is this real? And they waited in the end, it was a year. I'm pretty sure I was on the road with Gilmour for like 9-10 months. So we didn't start then until next year, so to speak. So it was, I was amazed at that, truly amazed. I thought my stars are doing the right thing here. They must all be in the right place.
And was Jimmy Page the songwriting genius everybody says he is?
Was who, did you say?
Was Jimmy?
There's a bit of echo. Jimmy?
Was Jimmy the songwriting genius everybody says he is?
Well, to be honest, they were writing songs. I mean, I find it difficult to comment because, I didn't buy the album. He's certainly got something going for himself, whether that, whatever that is. He's a great player and he's a nice fella. And when you work with somebody in a band, you don't want somebody who's not a nice fella. So I've been lucky like that all the way through my career. So songwriting genius, I tell you, was a genius. Malcolm Young. He was the best rhythm player I have ever heard or probably will ever hear in my life. He was always on time. He was always driving forward. He was a rhythm section on his own without bass and drums. And, he's sadly missed. And it was his band. It wasn't Angus or Brian. It was Malcolm's band. And he, did everything, made decisions about visual direction and songs and lyrics, I'm sure. Although they co-wrote, Angus and Mal. And they so well, those two guitars together. It's so hard to do that and do it as well as they did it. So Malcolm, I consider a genius, a real genius. Like, in other words, unique in his field of rhythm guitarists. And probably songwriters too. Because they wrote some great songs.
ACDC is a huge part of your career.
Yep.
In what ways do you believe the album The Razor's Edge stands out in the band's discography?
Sorry, you'll have to say it again because there's echo at your end. I can't quite make out exactly.
In what ways do you believe the album The Razor's Edge stands out in the band's discography?
Well, I'm told by many, many people, and I agree, Thunderstruck being on that album was tremendous because it's an amazing song. It's got everything. It's got a chant, it's got a hook, it's got everything going about it. A great guitar line running through it. It's just tremendous. If you are going to write an iconic song, you start there because it's such a great song. I didn't recognize it as such when we did it because it wasn't finished yet. The band had played it all together in the same room. Even Brian was in there singing, and we must have done it dozens of times during the day, or over 3 days maybe, until they decided which take was the best. And that's the way they worked. They listened to every take that the band did and said, no, we don't like that one. We like that one. So, I didn't see it myself. I don't think they saw it themselves. But when it came out, it was just massive. Of course, we all know that now. But it wasn't obvious to me when we recorded it.
After working on demos for the following album, Ball Breaker, Malcolm called you and told you they wanted to try a reunion with former drummer Phil Rudd. You replied, "That's me out there, I'm gone." Was it simple as that?
Yes, it was. And I was concerned for him, actually, for Malcolm, because it's a terrible call to make. I've done it myself, so I understood what position he was in. And it's a terrible thing to have to do. Well, it wasn't even sacking. He said, "Oh, we'll keep you on. We'll pay you. We'll keep you, going. We wanted to stick around, and I'm going to try Phil out though." And it's like, well, I'm gone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the way I see it. And I thought the band was a really well functioning band, and it was. I'd done the demos for Ball Breaker, actually. I'd spent 3 months doing the demos with Angus and Mal, just those two and me. And then Phil Rudd, just for a change, had to learn my drum parts, which I thought was a real switch. I know he did, because I went to visit Cliff and Brian when they had apartments in London, when they were staying there. And I went to visit them, and we had a pint. And when I went into Cliff's, I could hear my demos, the demos I did for Ball Breaker, being played upstairs. And I said, "Oh, Cliff, that's the album." He said, "Oh, yeah, that's Phil's apartment upstairs." So I walked into Cliff's place, and Phil is playing the demos that I did to learn them, So that's a great switch in history,
You rejoined ACDC again in 2014 when EXO Rose was on the vocals. What can you say about that experience?
It was a great experience. It wasn't, I'm not saying Axl was better or worse than Brian. People think I'm saying, that one is better than the other. I'm not saying that at all. But somebody's got to come in and take over from somebody. And he actually did a fantastic job. He had an amazing voice. It's, he's not Brian Johnson. He didn't try to do a Brian. He did it his own way. I didn't know he had that voice. I really did not know that. I'd only ever heard him in Guns N' Roses, and it was to me it was a sort of a whiny voice, to be honest. But this was full out his own voice, and wow. And he used to warm up 2 hours before every show and warm down an hour after. I know because I was in the next room to him. So, you know, it's a great singer. Great guy, actually. He was a nice guy, believe it or not. Always on time. Never once was he late. He always told stories and told jokes. You know, he was a real band member. And he did it properly.
Is it true that he made the band play some more obscure songs on the shows?
Actually, I mean, he asked Angus to do certain songs, if we could do certain songs. One of them was Touch Too Much, my favorite ACDC song, actually. And the other one was If You Want Blood. He asked for those two. And Angus said, we don't know it now, but we will know it next week. So, you know, and we did know it next week. And we played Touch Too Much with Timeline. And, you know, Axl was a big fan of Bon Scott. And I had a lot of respect for AC/DC. So, you know, he did a wonderful job. And people will say, you know, he's not this or he's not that. He's not Bon, he's not Brian, you know, he's Axl. And Axl is not Bon or Brian, and Bon or Brian are not Axl. Music isn't a competition. It's that is, if you say, I like this better, that's a subjective decision. That is our opinion. It's not objective. It's I like this, which is fair enough. But you can't say this person is better than this person. You can say, I think this person is better than that person. But it's only an opinion. It doesn't mean it's real. And all the trolls on internet are, you know, saying, oh, he thinks this, he thinks that. They don't know what anybody's thinking. Or I don't like him because he wears yellow neckerchiefs. You know, they have a very stupid attitude. The people who diss things all the time on internet, because they wouldn't do it to your face or somebody's face. You know, she's overweight, she's underweight. You know, she has terrible hair. You know, it's ridiculous. But they wouldn't do it in front of that person's face, whether man or woman. They probably got a left hook.
Did you get to see and hear ACDC on their current tour?
I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks, actually.
And what did you think?
I haven't seen them on this tour, but I'm going to see them in like 3 weeks' time. And you know, we can still be friends. I'm not in any way bitter. People think I'm bitter. In fact, the trolls say, "Oh yes, look, listen to the way he's talking. He's obviously being very bitter." I'm not bitter at all. It was a wonderful time when I was in the band, and I'm still having a wonderful time. And I was before I joined the band, and I had a wonderful time when I was in the band. People don't like you saying that. They want you to be miserable and bitter and really cut up about things. But I'm not at all. In fact, I know Matt Log quite well. When I lived in California, I knew him. He used to go and play with some friends of mine in Manhattan Beach in California. And I used to go every Friday and see these guys when I wasn't working. And They were great. They were all professional musicians who weren't working that Friday. Todd Zuckerman from Styx used to sit in, and he played with that band for months before he joined Styx. And he became a friend too, and he's one of the greatest drummers I've ever seen in my life. When he plays with Styx, he's great. He's tremendous. But he's playing to a script. His script, his own script. But when you take the handcuffs off, like in a pub, he's fantastic. He's all over the place. In a jazz way is what I mean. His father was a jazz drum teacher. So he started with the advantage, more advantage than the rest of us. So he's probably the greatest drummer I have ever seen, apart from Buddy Rich.
Would you accept joining ACDC for the third time if you were invited to do so?
Would I? Yes, I would. Of course I would. I was surprised to be asked a second time, to be very honest. People kept asking me because they knew Phil was in trouble for all sorts of things. And they were saying, have they called yet? Have they called yet? I said, look, they are not going to call me, right? I'm not going to get a call. So stop it. This is people's expectations, Fans and friends. Have you heard yet? Have you heard yet? They're not going to call, guys. They will not call, okay? And then the phone, I was in Switzerland with Timeline. And the phone goes ring, ring, and it was ACDC. So I was incredibly surprised and pleased, of course. So I went back with the band for another 2 years. And, it was great.
As for my last question, looking back on your career, what are you most proud of?
Well, being alive and still playing drums. That's what I'm most proud of. I didn't do anything. It just happened that way. So I've been a professional drummer now for 60 years and almost to the day. And it's fantastic. I just wanted to play drums I remember making the pledge, I'll play drums as long as I possibly can. Because when I started, I went to a youth employment place, to suggest careers for you in school, sort of thing. And they said, what do you really want to do? I said, I want to play drums. And they laughed their socks off for about 5 minutes. They said, that's not a job. You can't do that. What are you going to do when you're 22?
Look at you, 77, still playing the drums, making a living out of the drums.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I was talking. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say again. There was a funny noise in the background.
Look at you now, 77, still playing the drums, still making a living out of playing drums. It's amazing, man. It's very inspirational.
Yes, I'm very proud of that. I went to see, I saw Sandy Nelson, the drummer Sandy Nelson. He did Let There Be Drums in the 60s, which inspired a lot of drummers. Ringo, Cozy Powell, all sorts of people. And I don't know about Americans, but I'm sure that's true. He was American himself. And I used to live in Las Vegas, and he lived in Boulder City, not far, just up the road. And I used to go and see him. And he was still playing. He was in a wheelchair, and he was still playing drums. He's not with us any longer, I'm afraid. But he was a legend that started the whole world drumming, if you like. Because with Let There Be Drums, everybody who wanted to be a drummer loved that. And as I say, everybody, Ringo, you ask Ringo, he'll tell you the same. And of course, a lot of people also, Buddy Rich was another influence. So, you know, I got to meet those people through my life as well. I met Buddy Rich. I met Sandy Nelson, you know. What a wonderful thing. I met Elvis Presley. What a wonderful thing. He offered me a job, Elvis, playing drums with him. And me and Tom had arguments about it. And I'm sure the management went to Elvis's management and said, "You can't steal our drummer." And I said, "Look, it's for a month in Vegas. That's all it is." And of course, it turned into like years and years with Ronnie Tutt playing drums. And it was going to be me and Ronnie Tutt at the end because I couldn't make rehearsals. So it's going to be the two of us, Ronnie Tutt and myself. And Ronnie doesn't know that, I'm pretty sure, because he was brought in after I fell out, if you like. But I should have just said to Tom, stuff it, Tom, I'm going, mate. And I should have just walked. I was contracted, but I should have just walked, you know? And it was the end of the tour. There were no more shows to do. And yet he didn't want me to do it. So it was like a dog in the manger attitude, you know? I don't need him right now, but you can't have him, you know? So, I was disappointed. I mean, can you imagine how I would have felt doing that? That would have been just tremendous. And Tom and him were friends, you know, Tom and Elvis were friends, real friends for many years. After that, of course. So, but at least Elvis asked me to be his drummer. So whenever I see Ronnie Tutt on the kit, I think that could have been me, mate.
But you made
and Ronnie
an
does
awesome,
that.
but you made an awesome career anyway, man. It was very pleasant to get to talk to you. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
Well, I just put one foot in front of the other, really. That's exactly what I do. It's what I've always done. You just go from one thing to the next thing. And thankfully, I've been given an opportunity to go to the next thing all through my life. So, you know, in October, I'll be 78 and I'll still be playing drums. I'm pretty sure of that. And I'd only stop if I couldn't play with as much power as I have in the past.
Thank you so much, Chris. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Next time.
Although I
Take
talked
care.
a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Do I ring off here or do you